and we are back with yet another segment of the current review. My name is Tamsan Ngatu, sometimes known as TT, sometimes known as the chairman. Still episode 58 of the current review. Today we are joined by Kgaolatli. Is that correct? Kgaolatli, is that the correct pronunciation? Kgaolatli Gabo, a National Executive Committee member of the ANC Youth League, with the upcoming Economic Freedom in Our Life, Economic Freedom March, right? Economic Freedom March to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange set for Friday, the 11th of October. The ANC Youth League is once again rallying young South Africans to demand economic transformation, equal opportunity, and a future where the youth can truly thrive. We'll explore the reasons behind this march, the challenges facing the Youth League and the youth generally, and the vision, their vision for a meaningful change. Let's dive into this conversation to understand what this march represents for young people across the country. To start, Comrade Gabo or Gabo, Mr. Gabo, can you tell us what inspired the ANC Youth League to organize this Economic Freedom March, and why is it going to the JSE?
No, thank you very much, Titi. Before we get into issues, let me also appreciate the invitation and to speak on behalf of the ANC Youth League National Executive Committee led by President Colin Malachi. Let me also take this opportune moment to pass my greetings to your listeners of Central News, Titi. But going straight to issues, Titi, all reports that you can read, States SA, socio-economic report, United Nations report in terms of the status of South Africa, in particular analyzing the quality of life in South Africa. There is an indication that South Africa is the most unequal country in the world. That is the point of departure, TT. But also take into consideration, we are living in a country whereby 35% of the whole population is unemployed. Not to mention that more than 50% of that is unemployed is young people. I don't have to mention the fact that part of the reports, including that are indicated in the United Nations or States SA, indicates the young people as the majority share of the population, meaning that those that are between 14 and 35 years enjoy the majority population in South Africa. Now it becomes a worrying factor that more than 50% of such population is unemployed. Part of the reasons why we are also embarking on this march, TT, is given the demographics that we are experiencing. 13.8 million in South Africa, they are living in poverty. More than 50% of people who are living in poverty are unable to come up with a plan or knowing what is it that they are going to have as their next meal for the day. That is part of the problems that we are having. We are sitting with a situation whereby South Africa, the economy, majority of the economy, more than 70% of the economy, it's in the hands of the minority. And that minority happens to be white, even though there are certain sections of the society who would want us to believe that that minority or those that are in charge of our country's economy, they are not white in color. And part of the problems that we are sitting with, TT, is the fact that we are sitting with more than 40% of graduates that are unemployed. How are you expecting to create a country that is developmental in its own character, like you have claimed to want to build this type of society as the African National Congress? The struggle of the ANC has always been about land dispossession. We are currently sitting with a program of land redistribution that continues to favor the white people in South Africa, that continues to maintain the status quo in terms of land ownership and control of the country. But all of these things that we have raised as part of the problems that contributes to us having this march is precisely because we realize that these are the legacies of apartheid and the colonialism that continues to take charge and control of our economy. Probably one can argue that why would we say that the economy continues to be controlled or managed or owned by the minority in South Africa? You look at all the land that is being owned by the white people in South Africa. You look at all the minerals that are being controlled by South Africa, but ultimately only benefiting few sections of the society. We are talking about all of these problems that are informed by the economic status quo of the country that is unable either to advance the developmental state that we are arguing about, but most importantly, we are confronted with an economy that is unable to take care of its people. Now, our march to JSC, this is the most important aspect. We all know that the private sector is the one that controls the JSC. Ours is basically the last shot. One can say the last warning shot. I mean, the recent years, we have seen the majority of South Africans demonstrating in public because of either unemployment or because of inequality in South Africa, or because of generally lack of access of young people, particularly in terms of business opportunities and control of the economy. That on its own tells you that if the capitalist system in South Africa that happens to be white is not willing to come to the party in addressing some of the social ills that we have identified, they must be ready that we're not going to negotiate. Because from where we are sitting, it has been more than 30 years in democracy. We have developed policies that enable us to advance a radical economic shift as part of responding to historical injustices. But there is this section of the society that happens to be in control, that happens to be the owners of the economy, that are generally not willing to come to the party. They're not willing to fund the education in South Africa. They're not willing to fund skills development in South Africa. They are generally, one could say that these people are raping us daylight. They are taking our minerals from South Africa. They are exporting it, and in return, we are getting nothing. What is the use of having a business section of the society that continues to rip out of the economy but unable to reinvest in that economy? That is the rationale. We are calling for the radical shift and transformation of the economy of this country as a way of trying to respond to all of the challenges that are known by everybody, whether black or white, whether you are staying in Sandton or you are staying in the rural areas of this country. Thank you.
But tell me, Mr. Khabo, is that not a function of, the governing party's economic policies, really? Because if government has policies which are supposed to address redress and transformation in the economy, there must be mechanisms to enforce, such transformation and reform. Is it not therefore your fault as the governing party in terms of the economic condition that South Africa finds itself in today?
Look, ourselves as the African National Congress, having led government for the past 30 years, you know, at some point we had to characterize and categorize our liberation in phases. And there was a point where we argued that the first phase was all about the liberation of the people, creating an environment that is conducive where there will be respect for the rule of law, respect for human rights. And we entered another phase where we said that this second phase must be radical in nature as a way of responding to key challenges. And all of those challenges were located on and around the flexibility of our economy as a way of responding to those challenges. Yes, of course, policies that have been developed. I mean, let's look at the BBBE for argument's sake as a way of trying to open up the economy. Let's bring a discussion around the mining charter as a way of trying to force the mining society to create an ample space for our black majority to benefit. But unfortunately, here you are dealing with a system, and capitalism as a system that is controlling the world. You would know, between you and me, including those that are viewing this show, that capitalism has always resisted any progressive form that seeks to unsettle it from the enjoyment of the economic rule and control. We have had one of the spoiled brats of South Africa, Johan Roberts, who has always been a representative and a mouthpiece, and in fact, an unduly beneficiary of colonialism in South Africa, who has once said that if they can decide to close shops, South African economy will crash. Now, if you get an element of arrogance of that nature from capitalism, that you must know that you must be ready to confront this system head on. Now, we have created policies that are enabling us for development, but unfortunately, because of there is no political will from the side of the economic sections of this country. Hence, we are saying, as the Youth League, we are done talking. The only way of confronting this system is when we begin to disrupt everything. And disrupting everything is, it will get to a point whereby we'll be calling for this country to be ungovernable as the Youth League of this country. If it gets to that push, we are more than ready to do that. Hence, we are saying to the private sector, expected this as the last march. There was a march of the ANC Youth League in 2011 that raised these issues. The situation has went from bad to worse, but also within certain sections of the ANC leadership, both in government and the National Executive Committee, there seems to be there's no political will from certain leaders of the ANC. That's why we have came out as the ANC Youth League and told them straight that we're not going to please defend us of capitalism at the expense of the people. We have joined this organization because of we're claiming to represent the people. And if the people are subjected to marginalization, both in economy and in terms of human development, we are left with no choice but to take it to the street, because there is a certain section of the society that seems to be enjoying unnecessary political support from you as leaders of the ANC. So that's why we are saying that this one is the last call. This is the last march. We are no longer going to engage. We're no longer going to write theories. We'll have to take it head on. If it comes to a push, and if you know what is a revolution, we'll have to disrupt the status quo.
And as a prequel to my other question, I want, based on what you just said now, you are going to be marching to the JSE, which houses a number of companies which control the economy, as you are saying. Now, have you been able to identify within the JSE which are these companies which are anti-transformation, which are anti the agenda of the ANC Youth League and the ANC? And in the same breath, have you been able to identify which leaders within the ANC are pro anti-transformation, so to speak?
I mean, I've made an example of one of the spoiled brats called Johan Rupert in South Africa. And if we were to speak of Johan Rupert, you'd understand that is a reflection of what we are opposing as South Africa. When we speak of Johan Rupert, basically we are speaking of a representative of the very same class that we are speaking of. It's just that we have decided to go for the head, because these other ones are nothing but just limbs. Once you are done with the head, you would have known that indeed the radical transformation that you want to achieve, you would have achieved it. Out of all of these people that might be controlling the economy and being influential, we have decided, amongst others, to go for not only Johan Rupert, but to attend to him as a person who has demonstrated an appetite to oppose anything that speaks about development, anything that speaks about radical transformation of this economy, anything that speaks about progress and reclaiming the integrity of Africans and Blacks in particular. So from where we are sitting, we know whom are we dealing with. And even inside the African National Congress leadership, including its membership, there's nothing wrong, of course. Whether you argue them, of course, myself, I see them as generally apologists of the capitalist system. But others have argued that they are enjoying their constitutional rights as members. Remember, the ANC it's a multi-class organization. And as a result, you've got socialists, you've got communists, you've got capitalists. That's why from where we are sitting, we are saying that the current leadership outlook of the ANC seems to be biased to the current system and status quo. And if our observation and analysis is correct, it then means, unfortunately, we'll have to find each other standing counterposed with the current leadership of the ANC. Because from where we are sitting, it has always been the interest and agenda of the ANC Youth League to change the outlook of the ANC. And if the ANC current leadership is not ready, we'll be just like the leadership of 1944, find a way of influencing the ANC, take over the ANC so that we change these policies and we take this system head on, as we have always argued that the ANC...
Is this the collective view of the ANC Youth League National Executive Committee?
What view? That there are imbalances in the society? Yes.
No. The view in terms of how you view the leadership of the ANC at the moment.
Look, that's the national resolution of the ANC Youth League, so that the current leadership must be able to demonstrate through its action and policy. That's why we have said to the president, if you want to work with us as the ANC Youth League, impose these export quotas. Let's no longer allow raw material to leave the country. So those raw material can be processed in the country. We're able to create factories, we're able to create jobs. And we have said to the president that if indeed you would want us to work with the ANC Youth League as part of creating a developmental state, let's move away from privatization of state-owned entities. If indeed, because these state-owned entities, amongst others, they represent the type of a government that would want to build. But if you allow private sector to take over these things, we will never agree. We have said to the president, if you want us to agree with you that indeed we are not part of this, what is the popular narrative in society, that we are a representative of the capitalist system, then let's agree that we are going to reindustrialize the economy. Then if you can agree with that, then we can agree that indeed the popular narrative is not a true reflection of your leadership as president. Because as things stand, the president has been quoting us, agreeing with us in terms of this export quotas, in terms of the economic redistribution program that we have presented to him as a way. Look, the president agrees. What we are currently discussing with the president is the modalities on how to achieve reindustrialization, on how to achieve imposing of the export quotas. Because you would understand that as much as we want to impose export quotas in South Africa, it has also an impact on an African status or the African economic outlook. Because what is the use of us only as South Africa imposing those quotas when we've got other minerals coming from other African countries? So that's amongst other things that we are currently busy with as things stand. So that is basically our view as the ANC Youth League. We want economic freedom now and social transformation now, not later. When we feel like
and since you are talking about this reindustrialization and what it actually means for you, and you are telling us that you have begun a conversation with the president where you are now talking about the modalities as to when and how this will happen. Are you not worried that this will only begin to take shape by the end of your term as the current ANC Youth League National Executive Committee?
No. Remember one thing that the National Executive Committee is led by President Colin Malachi, one thing that they have managed to achieve ever since the dawn of democracy was to increase the number of youth representation in Parliament. And we have always argued that the reason why most of the resolutions cannot be implemented in government is precisely because of you seem to be having people that do not understand the current challenges that is confronting South Africa. And as a result, they seem not to be understanding their role as people who are in the state. So part of our responsibilities as members of Parliament being deployed by the ANC, of course, representing the views of the ANC, is to find ways and modalities on to hold president accountable. I can assure you that the president will be appearing before Parliament around the 29th of October. And one of the questions that will be posed before the president is how far are we in terms of the reindustrialization plan of this country? How far are we with the master skills plan of this country? Because you can't want to reindustrialize when you don't know what is the status of your skills and which other skills must we invest in as a way of working towards that reindustrialization and transformation of the economy.
And as you said, like in the beginning of this discussion, that this is not the first time that the ANC Youth League has targeted the JSE. In 2011, there was a similar march. What makes this year's march different, and what new strategies are you bringing to the table?
Obviously, the difference between ourselves and the 2011, of which will give that generation the necessary respect that they deserve as a collective of the generation, but not an individual.
Noted.
Yeah, it was important for us to put that into proper context, because sometimes I believe that you want to reduce what has happened in 2011 to an individual. And our role is to always oppose that thing, because we believe in collective leadership. The resolution of
it is very interesting that it is you who is putting an emphasis on the individual, whom I never spoke of. I am talking about that march, the difference between that year's march and this year's march. And you also on the individual. Hey, maybe it's very important that man.
I'm trying to disrupt your future plans of bringing individuals to a back door. I'm giving you our attitude already. But basically, TT, in 2011, there were a lot of things that were achieved beyond 2011 March. I mean, that yielded results. Okay. Between 2011 and 2024, for practical example, we had a frustration of NSFAS being now a low, of which between 2011 and 2024, it has been turned into a grant that allows. Are we still on, TT?
No, we're on.
Okay, I was saying that between what is the difference between now and 2011 is because of there are some achievements that we have managed to register, but in between the process, but there are certain things that we believe that we have to give emphasis to. I was just giving you a practical example on what we have managed to achieve in terms of NSFAS being given the necessary budget and how it operates. We have managed to achieve the president promoting this thing of economic stimulus, which grants or provides young people with grants who are particularly around the business sector, because our argument has always been that as much as we want to address the issue of unemployment, it's not all young people that would want to be employed in the state. Others want to be equipped with certain skills so that they can be active participants by contributing to the economy with the skills that they have possessed. So one thing that we have managed to achieve is certain things like those ones of the skills management and so forth. But what we want to achieve moving forward is the shift on the economic space. Our argument is that the economy continues to be white. The top management of our economy continues to be white and male-dominated. The majority of our people continues to be out of the economic mainstream. Majority of our people who are within the agricultural sector, for argument's sake, continues to be given opportunities to benefit from this land redistribution program by ways of being given land. But what is the use of giving that person land and you don't provide that person with the necessary financial support? Those are some of the things that we would want them to look into, but not necessarily saying that nothing has been achieved. A lot has been achieved. Look at the economic values. I mean, the number of people that we have managed to get employed between that time and now, but not necessarily saying that that is enough. Hence, we are presenting this much before. So apart from any other things, there are three critical things that we would want to achieve. Like I said, the reindustrialization, no to privatization of the state economy, because when we were state-owned enterprise, because when we are also shutting down those state-owned enterprise, you are basically saying to us that the majority of young people must go to the street. We're also calling for government so that this just energy transition, it must be done in such a way that it does not disrupt the current economic contributing factors like your coal in Mpumalanga. Those are some of the things that we want to achieve, given the new dynamics that have presented themselves before us in terms of the new challenges in South Africa, Titi.
Now, this march will be directly targeted at the private sector. Now, I want us to just in one answer. What is the ANC Youth League saying about the employment status of young people within government institutions? Because some may say that we see many of them relegated to EPWPs, CWP, and all these meaningless things. Even in government formations, you look at the government of the Free State, for example. You do not see in the executive the young people represented. What does the ANC Youth League nationally say about these kind of things?
Yeah, look, the president of the Youth League has pronounced that in every province, young people must be represented. And as much as we have noted some mischievousness from Free State, you must equally note and appreciate other provinces that has hidden to the call, like your Northwest, your Northern Cape, your Gauteng. But be it as it may be, you must understand that the ANC as a political party, like I said, it's a highly contested terrain because of its leader of government. Majority of all people that are in the ANC seems to be resistful towards youth development, and of which is understandable. That's why from the onset, as the 26th National Executive Committee led by Colin Malach, we said that we are not going to accept such a behavior. Hence, we said that it's for the first time you see a majority of young people in parliament, and we are moving towards local government. Our argument is simple. For as long as you've got older people who are in positions of power and influence, we cannot expect those people to understand the current realities. They are now stuck behind issues of their grandchildren and great-grandchildren, whereas the country is faced with serious problems of unemployment, young people being unable to access institutions of higher learning. I mean, currently, NSFAS has put in set aside almost 3.8 billion to deal with the missing middle students that previously government has been unable to fund. Those are some of the appreciations that we have for now. And we argue that come 2026, the Youth League must never be apologetic. Even the current setup must continue to push, must continue to lobby the president that some people must just be removed from government and young people be given an opportunity. I mean, currently we are seeing with more than 15 young people in parliament that the president has given an opportunity. But if the president can give Steenhuisen, whose metric is questionable, the entire department, why can't the president do the same with a young person that is from the ANC Youth League and well rooted in terms of what is expected from him as a deploying government? So we're saying we're not apologetic. Our relationship will be informed by our resolutions with the current leadership. If they agree that there is a serious change of economic transformation, we agree. If they agree that there is a serious change of leadership outlook, of which we are not apologetic, because we have said to the ANC that we must begin to reflect the type of society that we are leading. And this thing of having majority of young people, majority of all people in the National Executive Committee, if it is an old age center, it must come to an end. And that time is now.
Noted. I just want us to close in 30 seconds. Why should young people participate in this march? And what message do you hope that they take away from the march in 30 seconds?
Look, the march is about the future. The march is about securing our own future. And in this future, it's all about resolving problems that are confronting young people. The reason why young people must come out in their numbers and support this march is basically a demonstration that we are fed up with the current situation, and basically a reaffirmation that we are going to take full responsibility of our future, because there can never be the future of this country without us as young people. So in a nutshell, it's a reaffirmation that indeed, when you are joining this march, you are basically saying that you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, TT. That's where we are.
And details like how do they get in touch with you? How do they want, if they want to...
Through our communication channels, different communication channels, your TikTok, your Facebook. The march will be starting, obviously, will be taking place on Monday. The assembly on Friday, the 11th of October. The assembly point is Bears Naidu Square in Johannesburg. The assembly time is at 9 o'clock. Through our different channels of communication, like I said, Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp, we'll be updating different provinces. However, we have released the schedule of different contacts in different provinces of people that must be contacted for purposes of transport. But over and above, come Friday, we'll be shutting down Gauteng as a way of saying to the private sector that we are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and your time is over.
The member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC Youth League, talking to us about the Economic Freedom March scheduled to take place this coming Friday. Thank you very much for your time, and we are out to be back with